yum daddy dum daddy yum dum daddy doo dee do yum daddy dum daddy day yum daddy doo dee do yum daddy dum daddy day yum daddy.
Prynawn dda, siamai Slichi, croesio a Gymru. Mark ydw i, Dafydd ap Gruffydd y pedwar. Hi guys, Mark here, Celtic Crossbows, welcome to Wales. Dafydd ap Gruffydd the fourth was my great grandfather. And what we're going to look at now is some of the things that happened here under King Charles I and Oliver Cromwell in around 1745 when the king was beheaded. He was the first king of Britain of Celtic origin, national king of Britain of Celtic origin, son of a Scottish king, King James I. And we're going to look at now at some of the things that happened on this spot here around about 400 years ago. Okay, my great grandfather, Dafydd ap Gruffydd IV, he was a lieutenant in the Royal Regiment of Wales. And one of his duties was protection of the king. When the king escaped through this path up through Blanavon, which is today a World Heritage Site with the world's first blast furnace, it was literally 3 miles as the crow flies that way to my left. To the right was Afon Arwen Farm, Caerleon, where the farm was, in the parish of Ampitheatre. Down here, to the valley to our left, is Afon Arwen Farm. King Charles I took refuge here when he was on the run from Oliver Cromwell. He was a king that stood for his beliefs. He was very Christian, and he believed that the king should have absolute rule of the country and not be subject to those who could keep pushing up the prices of tax and duty and penalising those, just like today. Like today, the king still has no say in how the country is run officially, and the parliamentarians still continue to push up taxes and burden the working. The king was later captured by Cromwell and his men, where he was beheaded and his head was put on Tower Bridge in London. My job here at the time was to be the rear guard for the king. As I look back down through the valley this way, my job was to signal using fire arrows or whistling arrows or smoke to my counterpart on the other side of the valley, thus letting him know that Cromwell's men were on their way. Little did we know that they would be using the old Roman road from 56 AD, which runs to the north of this mountain. You will find it on Google Maps, which I include the link below in the video. My job would have been to blend in as a peasant, which is how I'm dressed today. It would have been with a standard hood to blend in, a camouflage, the surrounding for the woodland. It would have hid my identity. It would also been used, like I said, to blend in the woodland, which is a lot of greys, browns and blacks. It was an early form of camouflage. I could blend into the rocks and not be seen. My weapon of choice was a crossbow. The reason for such was, at the time, a longbow you had to stand fully exposed and give yourself to the enemy your position. We worked in pairs, same as the snipers today. One would be loading, the other one firing, same as one spotting, while the other one corrects for windage and firing. So we're going to look at my first personal weapon, which was a personal crossbow. It was a one-man crossbow. It was designed for one man to be able to cock and shoot it. So we're going to have a look at this one first and take a couple of shots on target. The arbalista wasn't just a crossbowier. He also had to be his own arrowsmith. or a fletcher. Although he didn't do much fletching, he would use the raw materials of the land, things that he killed, such as he used leather off his kills, his prey, deer, boar, guinea fowl, whatever he could get his hands on, the feathers from guinea fowl, or even using parchment and paper. So we're going to try some of these bolts now to show you how they would behave on target. We have a conventional target of modern day setup, sorry, right, and we have many different styles of bolts, including these. You can see this looks fire damage. This was done as well as smokes over a candlestick, etc., to give a form of basic camouflage and concealment to the bolt. Out in the public, in the green fields and surroundings, a naked white bolt would have stood out like a sore thumb to a trained observer, whereas a smoke bolt would have blended into the surroundings and made, again, against the tunic, much harder to conceal, to see in concealment from people observing. Here we have the standard field 150-pound draw crossbow. It had a metal prod. It was called an arbalist. All the wooden crossbows with a wooden prod was a crossbow. This was an arbalist. It was military grade, weapons grade. It was very, very intricately worked on. This was a killer. It was designed for close quarter combat, surprise attacks, and be able to stand in a concealed area behind trees, etc., ready to fire. So you just quickly snap, fire, and withdraw without being seen. Unlike a bow, you had to stand out on target, exposing yourself. This was a weapon of concealment, cunning, and of course deadly. I've slowed down the footage here as I can show you better what's going on. When loading the crossbow, first of all, you take the tickler, the trigger, hold it in and rotate the nut as I'm showing you. This sets the nut and allows you then to put your foot in the stirrup, grasp the string with both hands and pull back, engage the string with a nut. This has to be done even. If it's not done even, the crossbow will shoot to the left or to the right. The bolt we're going to use is a standard field bodkin. Now notice now I'm keeping my hand inside the trigger. This is to stop somebody from running up or unexpectedly hitting a tree or something like that and discharging the crossbow with your bolt in the breech with your hand holding it. The string coming forward can easily remove the tips of your fingers. So for this reason, we never ever touch the trigger until you're actually on target and pointing and ready to fire. I can't explain why, but the audio and the picture here went into stop motion mode. So this whole section I'm going to have to reshoot it, re-edit and re-upload again. What we have now is the 375 pound arbalist crossbow. It looks identical to the 120, 150 pound personnel crossbow we were just looking at. The difference being everything is bigger. The thickness of the metal prod is bigger. The bow irons are bigger. The stock is thicker. The trigger is longer to give more leverage for the shot. Everything about this bow has been maximised. It's virtually a third larger than the previous bow I just showed you. In order to cock the bow, you need a device called a whip. This was the forerunner of the goat's foot, and it's used by locking into the front, the stirrup of the crossbow, and pushing back on the bowstring to cock the bow. It gives you a leverage advantage of roughly 3 to 1. So it felt roughly the same as cocking a 150 pounds bow, although you was actually levering through 350 to 375 pounds of leverage. The next step up was the ammunition. This being a standard conventional bolt for a 120–150 pounds crossbow. It was roughly 1/3 of an inch in diameter and approximately 12 inches long. This, however, was for the bigger crossbows over 350 pounds draw. Side by side you can see it is much longer, much thicker, and of course much more deadly because it contained more kinetic energy on impact. This was your night killer. These was for bringing down the knights on horseback. So what we're going to have a look at now is spanning the bow using the ghost foot lever, or whip, as it is actually correctly called, is a whip crossbow, not a ghost foot. A ghost foot cocks on the return stroke with the pressure coming back. It draws the string, whereas a whip pushes the string. You'll see the difference now when we cock in. So same as before then, you put your foot in the stirrup. Always make sure that your foot is well in the stirrup. The last thing you want is slipping, coming back and hitting you in the groin, in the chest. Press your tickler. Set your nut in place. So you can see here now the nut is moving. So the nut is now locked. We're now going to take our lever. It works the opposite to a standard crossbow. Like I said, it pushes the string rather than pull it. So this is locked in the front. Okay, so the cocking of the the cocking of the crossbow, I thought you could do standing like the 120. You can't. It's way too much power in the limb. So I'm just going to move the camera around to the left and I'll give you a little bit more room. As you can see what I'm doing, I'm going to bring it down in. So this hook here locks into the front thus. You then bring down those fingers as we kept in the centre. Now keeping the lever going all the way through in one. Now watch, I'm keeping my hand in on the front. Dink a dink a dink. That was the trigger setting on the seer. So now our trigger is set and she's ready to fire. So I put her quietly, reposition the camera away from my trusty steed and have another shot on target. Okay guys, I was an acquired skill to learn how to cock it. First I actually cocked this bow outside. So now we're going to load it up and have a look. Okay, so you can see why now this was a two-man operation. By the time you come back away from the line, cock the crossbow, you can have another 6 or 7 arrows into you by the time you reload the crossbow. So it would be one man loading while the second man, or vice versa, is firing. So we slide it in our bolt and we have our next shot. Alright, with that bolt, I'm going to change our bolt for a fatter bolt. Okay, we're back now with a fatter bolt. This is better in the teeth. Let's have at it. Fabulous. Okay, so next shot now, I'm going to place the shot on target as you can actually see the impact. Okay, the last two shots we use a standard bodkin tip. We're now going to go with armour piercing and see how it comes up on the target. So here's the target here. We're going to do this all in one shot without cutting. So I'm just going to walk off over there, load up and fire. I will say these are heavy. Okay then guys, what we discovered. The kick on a 375 compared to a 150 is day and light. People say crossbows don't kick. These do. These old medieval warbows, they really do kick. And the trigger is not like a modern trigger, like the only way I can describe it is you're pulling a feather. That's it. How heavy a modern crossbow trigger is, it is nothing compared to a tickler on these medieval crossbows. I wish I could shoot a little bit longer. I got a few guests here present now, and I'm not particularly comfortable shooting a crossbow with somebody walking their dogs out in the wild. So there's going to have to be a quick wrap on this one. Thanks for watching, and I hope to do a little bit better next time. I left as late as day as I could. The sun is already just on the horizon, and hopefully next time I might have a little more time to do a better job for you guys. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned.